Hello, everyone. My name's Bryant, and this is the I Have Comic Issues YouTube channel. And tonight we are doing Comics to Cash. And my guest tonight is Jim from Bronzeville Comics, who sells on eBay, whatnot. He does comic book shows and pretty much any place else that anybody wants to buy comic books from. I'm pretty sure he would uh, be willing to sell them. So let me bring Jim on. And hey, Jim, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right. I am right that you'll pretty much will sell a comic book pretty much anywhere that somebody's willing to buy it.
Yeah, I mean, I use different platforms. So primarily it's Whatnot. And, I also do eBay.
Right.
I have a YouTube channel. So like when I do, like I did a CGC unboxing last week, and I said, if anybody's interested in these books, sold a couple of books that way. So, I do set up at a few shows, but it's... They're selling shows, lugging long boxes out of storage and, being there all day. It's, it's much for me. I prefer sitting in the basement and flipping through books on Whatnot. And, I'd rather go to shows and buy stuff and just walk around and talk with people. So I do a handful of shows.
Buy inventory and talk to friends.
Yeah.
Not a bad way to spend retirement.
No, it's been pretty good so far.
All right. Well, let's jump into it. How did you first get into selling comic books?
Well, the first comic books I sold were about 25 years ago in the early days of eBay.
Okay.
I started going through my personal collection, and I know I sold the Masters of the Universe set, the DC miniseries, which, considering that was I don't even know why I picked it up, because I was too old to watch the cartoon or play with the toys at the time. But I guess it was a DC book. It was new. It was a miniseries. I just grabbed it. And then I got to the point where I'm like, I don't need this. So they probably would have been 9/8. But, I sold some books at that time. And then, for most of my life, I never stopped buying comic books from the time I was in like first grade. And, had a weekly pull list at the comic book store, probably starting when I was in high school. Then mail order company. And then my friend was working for and eventually bought out a comic store. So
Okay.
I haven't missed a month of comic books. And it was during COVID when I was bored. And there wasn't a lot to do. And I was going on eBay, and then the prices start going crazy. And I bought a few collections and started selling from there.
Okay. And so what platforms do you use to sell, and which one do you like best out of the ones that you use?
Well, Whatnot makes it fairly easy. The thing is with any of them anyway, is they all have pluses and minuses. You need patience. Whatnot, it takes a while to build up a following because you have to have people come into your room. And I do have regular buyers that come in frequently, and, we'll buy a stack of books a week. And you also have to develop your niche. Somebody else will be selling, modern variants, or, Do You Poo, or, more risque covers.
Right. Not safe for
I'm
work.
kind of more vintage, copper and earlier. And the, so that's kind of where my niche is. And you also have to be patient within a show. Sometimes stuff won't sell. And, if you have the bigger folks and people will see that, that get like 100 people in the room, they can start a book at $1. And if it's a $5 book, they'll probably get $10 for it, and in the long run, they'll even out. But, I usually get like about 30 people in the room, maybe 40 on a good night. And I will start some books, especially if I have a theme going, and I know I have numerous people that are interested in that type of book. I could start lower values, but usually it's like I'll start it. Oh, hey, it's early morning Monday for you. Usually I'll start, a book. If it's a $20 book, maybe I'll start it at $15. If it sells for $15, as long as, based on what I have into it. So that's kind of the way I look at it. And the higher the value, the closer I'll get to FMV.
And so Whatnot's the one that you prefer over eBay?
Yeah, because, well, here's the thing. If I sell 100 books on Whatnot, I'll probably have to ship out 20 shipments. If I sell 100 books on eBay, I have to ship out like 90 shipments.
Right.
And it's all in, I do it in one night. So Whatnot makes, especially the shipping process, very easy. The end of the show, I print out the invoice with the shipping label. Everything is paid for in terms of shipping by the buyer when they buy the book. And then I print out a manifest that I take to the post office, one sheet of paper that will have, they just scan one sheet of paper and they take the 20 boxes. And that's, that part is all done. Packing up 20 boxes is it's a little bit of my Tuesday spent to that, but it does simplify it. Especially when you're moving like, $3, $5, $10 books. eBay makes sense for higher value books.
Right.
That are probably $50 plus. You're getting a wider audience and you're getting people that are going to look at that.
Do you sell very many books through the Whatnot marketplace?
Not really. I actually sold one last week that somebody, I had a lot. It was like X-Men, the volume 2 from the 90s, like like maybe 30 issues for $40 or something. And somebody bought the lot during the week or they made me an offer. I accepted the offer. And I have a lot of books listed, but I don't sell a lot. What I have is books listed for, future sales with start values in auction. And usually when I go into my room, because I am very detailed, you've been in my Whatnot shows, I have the title, the issue number, this key significance, the condition, any notes on it, a picture. Other sellers will just have, raw comic book number 27.
Right.
So, which also for me, it makes it a lot easier for shipping to double check to make sure everything's correct.
Right.
So I've never misshipped an item. I don't know. Maybe once in Whatnot, but I don't think so. So, it's a double check as I'm packing. And sometimes I'll go through and go, where is this book? And then I put it 2 sellers later, when I was putting in the box, or 2 buyers. And so it just makes it very streamlined in that regard. That's what you're paying the fee for. I have friends that sell on Instagram using live sales and they have to create their own invoices and then people ghost them. And, some people pay immediately and some people pay several days later and all that sort of stuff. So it's streamlined. And then once I print out all the invoices, 2 clicks of the button and the money's heading to my bank account.
Right. Yeah, I've noticed on with Whatnot, like if I use PayPal, I'm kind of grandfathered in and still have PayPal, the money is there like within like 15 to 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's pretty convenient.
Yeah, I have to go to my bank, but it's still, once you've been on there, it's pretty quick.
After you hit that magical number of 1,000 items sold.
Yeah.
It takes a long time to do $1,000 items.
Yeah. That was a while ago.
Yeah. Quite a bit of time. The commission rate is a little bit better on Whatnot, in my opinion, than it is on eBay.
Yeah, it's a little bit better.
Yeah. I think it's like 8%.
Well, it's it's 30 cents per item, right? So I always generally start books at $3. Because if somebody buys a single book and I'm paying 30 cents up front, plus I think it's like 12 point something percent, because they have their fee and then they also have a processing fee.
Right.
So the 2 of them added together. So even like there are no fees, they're still the processing fee or the, whatever they call it. But they have and then you have to put in a box to ship it out. So, you end up already losing money. Whereas at least, if you basically, if I sell a $3 item, usually because they also have, because I'm very detailed, you can print out the listing of every item that's sold. And since I have the issue and the title number, and I also put a code in so I know where it came from on my, which collection and whatever.
Right.
It'll say how much I made after their fees. So it'll be like $2.34 is usually the value of a $3 item.
Okay. And I guess, do you try to, do you have a, well, I'll get to this in a little bit. So how do you, okay, how do you decide what to sell versus what you want to keep in your personal collection when you go out
Well,
sourcing?
that's a challenge. I like to collect. I collect runs. Fortunately, I'm more of a DC collector.
Okay.
So post crisis, let's say from the mid 80s forward, I already have most of it. Um, and I've already um, gotten a lot of titles going back, like I have Batman probably like 125-ish up. Detective Comics, most issues after 300. Adventure Comics, I have every issue from 300 up. Action, I think I have every issue. So there are a lot of runs there. Superman 120 up. So especially, let's take Batman for instance, right? So I collected Batman as a kid, but when I was a little bit older, like middle school age, I collected the team books.
Okay.
I was Justice League of America, and then as Teen Titans and X-Men and Avengers and Defenders, etc. Because you're getting more characters for your money, right? So I didn't have Batman. I didn't start collecting Batman continuously until issue 400. And I bought a big collection, and most of it is back there. There's where can I turn there? The two boxes there and there with the Batman, the copies in the front. Those are issues like 150 through 400. So when I get a collection, let's say, or I go to the flea market, I'll take the book and look at the condition, compare it to what I have in there. And if it's an upgrade, I'll swap them out. So that's kind of what I do. There's certain things like Amazing Spider-Man, I don't collect. That's my cash cow. So like when I get Amazing Spider-Man in, I sell it. So,
Okay.
yeah,
that would be a hot, that's like a hot Marvel book to sell.
Yeah, and they sell pretty easily. X-Men, for instance, the Claremont stuff. I have it all, just a matter of grade, right? So a lot of times, so depends where I'm looking, right? If I go to, let's say, a garage sale, a flea market, where stuff is fairly cheap, right? You can find really good deals. I'll just grab anything I think is a good deal, right? If it's a dollar bin, anything's like a $5, $10 book, certainly, just put it to the side. Whereas at a show where most people know what they have,
Right.
it's a little more discriminating. And I kind of, you use the hobby to fund itself. I'll buy some books that I want for the PC. And then I'll buy some books that I think are good deals that, I can turn a quick profit on. And then I'll look for 9/8 candidates that I can clean and press and send off to CGC and get much more of a profit there. But that's also requires a great deal of patience because as it is, I'm about 2 years behind in cleaning and pressing books. I have quite a backlog of books that I have to get through. So, but it's nice when you can do that.
And how long CGC taking now to return books?
The most recent submission I sent in, it was back within 6 weeks.
Okay.
It was pretty quick it was a bulk modern pre-screen.
But that does kind of slow down the whole recouping the money process.
Yeah. I mean, as long as you're not like, needing to sell the book that made the, Comic Tom Hot book of the week, if it's a solid key, then, the money will still be there. And it's just like, I have stuff in, I get, I send books out to CGC, I get other books back and, just kind of keep the wheel moving.
Do you have, is there a specific return on investment that you're looking for when it comes to slabbing the books?
Yeah, generally speaking, I would like a book to be worth at least $100 in a 9/8. And
And that's as long as you got it at a low enough price that it makes
right. Yeah. And I kind of look for the books that I can get for like maybe about $10, maybe 15, maybe 20, depending on the book, because you get a bigger return on investment. And actually doing a video tomorrow talking about that. And it's supply and demand. I looked at 3 books that I just got back. They're all worth about the same, all about $250 books in a 9.8, but one of them is like a $50 book raw, and the other 2 are about $15.
Okay. So, and now that CGC is going up on their prices too now, apparently.
They are. It doesn't affect me, what I do, as much, because they did basically, they did raise the prices. So for modern, it went up $2, right? 25 to 27.
Okay.
So, I mean, I use my friend, I use his account. He's a dealer. So it's 25% off. So instead of, $2, it's $1.50. It's still a cost. What they did was, when they introduced the bulk, you had to submit 50 books at a time. And they only did modern, right? Bulk modern submission. It was cheaper. And the reject fee for a pre-screen was $5 instead of $9. So they wanted people to send in books. What they did basically is, now they've reduced the bulk limit. You only have to send in 25 to get the bulk rate.
Okay.
And the bulk rate is what the old rate was. And on vintage, they did the same thing. They introduced a bulk rate. So basically, I always send in 25 books at a time, just to be,
make it
efficient on shipping.
Yeah.
Right. So if I send in 25 vintage books, I'm paying the same as I did before, because basically the bulk price is the old price, and the non-bulk price is $2 or $3 higher.
Just on a quick side note, is it hard not to look at the grades on the website when you?
I don't look at grades. I actually, the last bulk submission I did, which wasn't that great, I got 14 out of 50.
Yeah, I watched it. I watched both parts of the video.
Yeah. And some of it was mystifying, because like on the first 25, I had 11 books that I had as clean. Notes were clean. They should have been 9.8s. I got 2 9.8s. Of the 14 books that I had notes on, that had a little this, a little spine tick, a little ding, I got 5 out of 14 back. So I did better on the ones with notes than the ones I thought were clean. And I mean, there were some books that were like, and I haven't looked at them yet, but anyway, to answer your question, I didn't look at my credit card statement, and I didn't look at the website. I just saw that it was shipped and just waited. And of course, it was like held up in somewhere in New Jersey for a few days. Got supposed to be there on Monday. I didn't get it till like Thursday or something.
Okay.
But it's I think it's more fun to be surprised, when you're doing a YouTube video.
Just a note on those videos or whatever. I guess I watched it and it had the captions on that popped up. And so when YouTube plays the captions, but you have your FMVs go across the bottom of it, the captions cover up the FMVs. So I'm just saying, like, if somebody's watching and they have the captions on, they might not see the typography that you're putting on the screen.
Yeah, I don't know if I can move that. I have to see.
Well, no, I don't think you can remove it on.
No, I could move where I have the.
Yeah, in the future, I put it up in the top right corner,
or have it come in or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but just that was something I saw the other day when I was watching it.
Yeah, because I when I watch other videos, I like, there's some people do unboxings. They have the FMV. It's like, okay, what is that book worth? Sometimes you have an idea, and sometimes it's like,
Yeah, I like watching all the FMV videos to see what they are. It's like, I have that. If I ever get around to sending it in, that'd be nice. But
yeah.
I still haven't made my first submission yet, so eventually I'll start going down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, it's like about 3 years ago during a comic boom, people were sending everything in. And there's still folks who are like, well, if I send it, it'll be worth more money. It's very limited what should be sent in. That's why I do the 9.8 pre-screen. So because it's most books that are, let's say 1980 or forward, unless it's a big key like ASM 300 or something, it's very hard to sell a 9.6. And even for older books, if it's like a Silver Age minor key that's like a $200 book in mid grade, it's probably not worth much more graded.
Right.
Higher grade, different story, or higher value.
I was watching a live stream yesterday that had Dave from Still Only 35 Cents on there, and he was talking about how he had got information back from CGC talking about some of the books that he lost, but he got his entire purchase history from CGC, and he kind of like just shook his head with how much money he had spent with CGC.
Yeah.
All right. So when you source your comics, what are you looking for? I mean, what is your criteria when it comes to sourcing books to supplement? Because I would say it's pretty hard to fully fund your comic book habit. Supplement, in my opinion, might be a better word for me. It was like a lot of it's going to come out of my pocket anyway, so whatever I can supplement will help.
Yeah, well, I move quite a few books, so you know, the fact of the matter is I have inventory. That's like kind of where, you know, the money's tied up, and I look at, if I go to a show, right? I'll, like I said, I'll pick out some books that hopefully get 9/8, and even if I have a 50% hit rate, I should do fairly well. Like for instance, where is it? I just sold this, right? Because I had I had 2 copies came back in 9/8. So, oh, there goes my phone. Right, JLA 190 newsstand.
Right.
Brian Boland cover. Raw. I bought this at the Super Jersey Comic Expo 2 years ago for $15. Right. I sold it went on eBay the other day, sold for $250. So I think it was like about $215 after expenses. Is what I, you know, plus the grading fees, et cetera, et cetera. Even all of that considered, you know, I didn't pick up a lot of books, I guess, that day, but I more than paid for everything, including the stuff that I kept in my PC. Now, I don't think I bought any big PC books that day, but that's kind of like, I kind of keep track of that. Like I'd gone to a flea market a couple of years ago, and I found an Amazing Spider-Man 5.
Okay.
For $5.
You
so,
bought it, right?
Yeah, like I was going to pay a few hundred for it because the guy was like, I just built a pile. And he's like, oh, this is 1, this is 3, this is 5. And the guy standing next to me is like, oh my God. So I sold it for 500, but I knew there was a guy there that has, you know, older stuff. I picked up 2 Golden Age Superman books for decent deals, but I knew that, you know, I'm ahead of the curve already on the day. So that's kind of the way I look at it. And I have another project in the works in terms of figuring out how to minimize the cost of buying bigger books.
Okay.
You know, or you know, when all is said and done, you have to put the legwork in to get that done. The other thing about the Justice League is I did get another 9/8 in that submission, which was kind of funny because there are only 18 universal 9/8s on the census, and 2 of them were in my most recent submission.
Yeah,
which is nice. But you know, those were the first ever books from that Justice League of America Volume 1 run, which I collect, and that's what started me as a collector was that title. Those are the only ones I've ever gotten back from CGC. So good start.
yeah.
You know, 9/8 for the collection, sell one, and you know, pays for some grading fees, and it pays for, you know, acquiring the books and that sort of thing.
You don't or for resale purposes, you don't seek out variants and modern books. You're mostly silver and bronze.
Yeah, up to copper and even into 90s. Because I can't keep track of the variants.
Right.
What I do is like I try to get on board when Whatnot has those packs. Because those turn around easy money. I did the Mark Spears Halloween pack.
Okay.
And I got another stack of them coming in for his holiday or whatever it was. That I think they're to go on sale next week, maybe. So that those are like, you know, pretty decent profit makers, but that's modern variants are, you know, scary because if it's a popular one, the price will go like this, and then a few months later it's worthless. So I'm not that, I don't turn stuff around that quickly usually. You know, I'll pull things that I see at the LCS that appeal to me,
Right.
that I think might, but usually Usually it's like a cover A, cover B. I usually don't like to buy the ratios and stuff. I did like go to New York. I think it was 2 years ago. I went to New York, got a whole bunch of the exclusives and stuff, and resold some of those that night. But that's not something that I really lean into.
Okay. So do you focus more on selling graded books or raw books?
Mostly raw, because very few books deserve to be graded or make sense to get graded.
Right.
And but what I will say is, it was funny. Somebody left a comment about the Justice League because I had fair market values $250, and he goes, "Somebody have to have a lot of disposable income." Yeah, there just needs to be one person, that wants it. And I looked, like I said, there were only 18 on the census. There was only the one that I posted was the only one available on eBay. So somebody that wanted that book, that's the only one that they can find.
Right.
Whereas, an ASM Spider-Man, for instance, there are several copies going to be available on eBay at any given time, or if you look on my comic shop or wherever, you're going to be able to find that book. But people who are specific collectors are, going to seek that out. But that being said, raw books. I got the Silver Age collection. It's mostly lower grade stuff, like VG-ish. Just, nothing is really worth getting graded out of the whole pile. Because I was kind of like the, Facebook Marketplace. A couple people got there before me, and a lot of the keys were gone. So, there are certain books in lower grade, like it was a Batman 181, or, he said he had some Spider-Man stuff. Yeah, that lower grade is worth getting graded, but, and the fact of the matter is, I got a Marvel Silver Age collection. I had like a Silver Surfer, 3 and 4 that I sold raw. And, that if stuff doesn't sell for the price that I think it's worth, then maybe I'll get it graded. Because the one thing is, for higher value books, let's say $500 plus, a bump of a grade, a half grade or a grade, could make a big difference in value.
Right.
And for the whoever I'm selling it to is, I think my grading is fairly accurate, but this is an independent party that say this is a 6.0. Somebody could look at it and say, I think it should have been a 5.5. Whatever. I mean, it is what it is. And, especially when you're selling online, that makes it a little bit easier to sell the book if it's graded by CGC or someone else.
Yeah. And it's protected in its plastic case with the number on it. So
yeah,
good to go. Do you sell very many lots or runs? I know you said you sold an X-Men one the other day, but is that normal, or is it?
What I try to do is, if I can, for books like miniseries, I'll put the miniseries together and I'll sell. A lot of times I'll just stick it into I buy it now. Because often, if the books aren't really worth much individually, you might get it like a 4-issue run that, you sell for $10, right? Which is going to be better than throwing it in a dollar bin or bulking it out. I had one sale, one guy just started coming in and buying all this. I had a whole bunch of sets, like I was auctioning. He bought almost everything. I mean, it was like, they were all high grade. It was from the same collection that gave me a bunch of 9/8, but it was like, DC's Doc Savage and the Phantom, and, it's just stuff from the later 80s, early 90s. He bought 45 pounds worth of comic books. It was crazy, but that's unusual.
No. So, okay, since you sell books every week on Whatnot, do you actually have an inventory system where you know exactly how much you paid for every book coming in, and then do you track it with every sale that you make? So you actually do you have a P&L sheet for your Whatnot?
Yeah, I'm probably way too detail oriented in that regard. So what I'll do is, if I buy a collection, so this DC Silver Age lot, I probably bought about 1,000 books. I haven't even processed all of them yet. I use the CLZ app, which is linked to cover price.
Right. Okay.
So for those books where there wasn't a lot of differential in terms of the value, let's say paid $1,500 for 1,000 books, I'll just divide every book's $1.50, right? Let's see what we can do there. So then when I sell the book on Whatnot, I'll go, okay, this sold for $4.37. This sold for $8.09, whatever it is. And then I'll have a running total, and I'll see what the return on investment is, the ROI of the books that I've sold. I'll take out the books that I'm keeping for the PC, and then have the value of those books, that okay, I'm putting $200 worth of books into the PC. So I keep that. Yeah. So I, and if you ever stop in my Whatnot shows, you'll see like a 3-letter
Right.
parentheses at the end. That's a code for me as to which collection it came from. So then I can
So in
go
your
back.
CLZ app, do you have like little tabs at the bottom for each different collection?
Yep. Every time I go to a show, every time, I pick up a collection, it's all that they, if I buy stuff on eBay or whatnot, I'll put that in a separate thing, like just for the year, like, resell comics, or, I'll put them in the PC. I have my own tab for the personal collection so I can see what I need. But, yeah, it's, and even I go to a show, I'll buy a stack of books from a dealer, be like, okay, that'll be do 150. I'll get home, the sticker price was 180, and I kind of prorate it out. So it kind of gives me an idea of like how much I, want to sell the book for. If I want to, at the very least break even, if not, make a profit.
Going back to Whatnot, how long have you been on Whatnot? Sorry, I never asked you that question at the beginning.
I'm gonna say, I think it's been like 3 years.
When you start, have you always been where your shows have been, everything's pre-listed, like, or did you ever just do the random show?
Early on, I think I had the stuff pre-listed. Maybe not early on, but pretty soon I started to pre-list everything. And then, they required a little more detail when they do, what do they call it?
Quality listings.
High quality. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that, and that includes the pictures, right? So what makes it easier for me is any books that don't sell during a sale. And it might be the book that I started $3. It might be a book that I started $30 or $100. I can then just load those into a future sale. And usually what I do is I'll bring it in, from, let's say I go to the flea market and got 100 books. I'll go through them and say, okay, these I'm going to put in this sale. And I have like a letter system. So it'll be like tomorrow's sale is O. And then the books from like 6 months ago, the last time I hit the letter O that didn't sell, those are already cloned into this sale. So, like I know I have like 3 books that I've already had pre-orders on. I mean, they're like $3 to $5 books. April 2022 was my first sale. Yep. April 23rd, 2022. I just looked back at my Google Sheets tab that has the sales, but it wasn't until I just had like comic book. The first several shows, I didn't have all of that detail. That started in July of 2022. I did an X-Men sale. You probably bought some of those books. So yeah, that it has a lot of detail in that regard.
I'm getting very close to finishing my 94 through 544 of volume 1. I need 3 books. Those are 3 books that I sent you earlier today.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I have any.
I've tracked down 2 of them. I still got to find 110. Might have to bite the bullet and get that one off of eBay.
Yeah, it's it's kind of satisfying when like I'm in a show and you pull it. Right, that's the last one I need. And
I mean, we don't have in my area, we don't have as many comic book sources to go hunt books at.
Oh no, like I can be somewhere. If it wasn't for the snow today, I would have been at a show in New Jersey.
Right.
There's a show in Long Island next week. I could have gone one to Brooklyn yesterday. When the weather's nicer, the Meadowlands Flea Market is pretty much every week, unless they have a concert or something going on at the MetLife Stadium. So yeah, there's
you're sourcing every weekend if you wanted to.
Yeah. And, Street Side Anthony, who, sells in his driveway almost every Saturday, he's like 15, 20 minutes away from my house. So, it's, it is convenient. And, it's actually, it was kind of a relief not having to go anywhere this weekend.
You
I
got
still
to
haven't
take
gotten
them a
through
little
the
bit.
pile of books that I need to, but
Yeah. So when it comes to pricing your books, what do you use to help find your CLZ? Hey,
CLZ is
we got
connected to cover price.
Randy. Have you ever met Randy from Swarm of Comics?
I have not met him, but I've watched his channel.
Yeah, he watches your channel. I know that.
I met a mutual friend of his at the Terrificon,
Okay.
his buddy Tom, who he refers to as Comic Tom to confuse people. So I had what was I saying?
I was asking about how you price your books.
Oh yeah. So it's linked to cover price.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is fairly useful. But you got to be, a little more careful. Like I have actually in the garage, it's been sitting there forever, like 8 long boxes of books from a collection that I got that were all from 3, 4, 5 years ago. And they're variant covers. I don't know if they're, worth anything or, I recognized a couple of books in there, but with modern books, the nice thing about CLZ is you could just scan the barcode. And then if you see that something has a fair market value of $20, let's say, as opposed to $3, well, now you can investigate it a little bit further and see, if it's something that's worth selling and what you can sell it for.
He'll scan the cover now too.
Yeah. Because sometimes the barcode's on the back and it's bagged up. And
you just got to make sure you pick the right variant when it puts up the barcode.
Yeah, that more often than not for the newer books, that's pretty accurate. For older books, it's like has I think it was just coded for the specific month. So you'll see like every 12th issue, it's all the, as possibilities. But at any rate, that's good. But then for more expensive books, I also use Go Collect and GP analysis. The problem with GP analysis is they don't have pictures. So if you're like, wait, which one is this? And that's, I tend to, especially if it sells frequently, you can look at a lot of recent sales. GP analysis pulls in more information than Go Collect does, especially eBay best offers. And that can be useful. So like, for instance, I had like this book I showed earlier. It was hard to price. There was like one sale of a direct 9.8 from 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
So I'm like, I just kind of guessed. Maybe I guessed too low because it went like within 2 hours of me listing it to buy it now on eBay. But
it always makes you wonder when something sells that fast. Did you price it too low?
Like this book, its last sale was $285.
Okay.
And that's, there have been like 30 sales this year. And then, this book sells all the time. There's probably a couple hundred sales this year. Like 4,000 9/8 on the census. So, it's when you have stuff that's a little.
I have both of those, but raw.
What's that?
I have both of those, but raw.
Yeah. I've had good luck with that Wolverine. I had a collection that had a 9.2. I cracked it and got a 9.8.
That's a nice little bump.
This one got a 9.8. Yeah, that's that the 9.8s. They're a fickle mistress, but they can bring a big return from raw, and that's kind of what I tend to look for when I'm going to shows. So, and then the thing is too is if you find a dealer that has like a high grade collection they just got in, you can really, find, they're trying to move the stuff.
Right.
You can find some of those cheaper books that are like $150 or more. Contest of Champions, who thinks of that as a big key, but 9.8 because it's from 1982. is, $285.
Yeah.
You know, so the, if you could find a 90 candidate, probably get it for less than 20.
So where
And
does cover price get its values from? Is it from eBay and Heritage, or?
I think it must be from eBay. I'm not sure if they use like My Comic Shop or anything like that. Because eBay grades on eBay are not always accurate for raw books.
Right.
But yeah, I'm not exactly sure. I mean, eBay is the main source, I would think. eBay sold listings are useful, but if it's something that doesn't sell as frequently, then it's a little bit harder to determine. But it is a good tool. I use it, especially when you get collections that have trade paperbacks.
Right.
That I use eBay sold as the barometer.
Okay. So what is your process when it comes to cleaning, pressing, and grading?
Slow.
I guess you do it all yourself, don't
and
you?
I'm very, I'm very rigid. It's probably a personality flaw, but so the books that I picked up, let's say 2 weekends ago, I take these I think might be 9/8 candidates. I look through them. Okay, fine. Put them in a box, and then I'll get to them when I get to them. And right now I'm digging through stuff literally from December 2023. The book, what did I think it was from, December 2023 is the last book I put in the press. And so I do my own cleaning and pressing. I haven't done any of the bled Lightbox lightning stuff. I have equipment that I have to kind of play with to see how it'll work, because I do have some 9/8 candidates that have tanning on them. I have like a Lobo #1 newsstand and a Conan McFarlane cover newsstand that are gorgeous, except a little bit of light tanning. So, or foxing, that kind of thing. So that's, but that is more time intensive. So I have just basic 2 t-shirt presses with aluminum plates. And I have multiple aluminum plates. So what I'll do is I'll have 2 books in it, 1 book in each press at a time. Maybe in the morning I'll put books in the press. Then like afternoon, kids come home from school, get settled. They're doing whatever they're doing, starting homework. I'll come down and put another couple books in the press. I'll take the whole, the aluminum plate with the stacking of the books in there, put that to the side with a weight on top. And I have 12 sets of aluminum plates. So 2 days later, take them all out, reevaluate them, put them in the stack to send out to CGC, or readdress something on it, or just say, yeah, this isn't working out. And like I had bought this book. I improved it quite a bit. The bag is a little wrinkly. First Thundra. And it looked like improvable from the pictures, but the problem is with the white cover, it had some spine ticks here that were a little too deep, because this really has to be at least a 9 for it to make sense. I would think the best that this would get would probably be an 8.5. So I'll just sell it raw for make a little bit of money on it. I did improve it because it had a lot of finger bends in it, but there is something satisfying about improving a book and making it look better. And especially, when you get back a really good grade on something that you're like, oh, wow. So that's kind of fun. Like I had a DC Superstars #11, the Zatanna cover. I bought one off of eBay and it came back a 9.6. It was gorgeous. And I bought it for like $111. That's like an $800 book and a 9.6.
Oh, wow.
So, that's a PC though.
But
it means when Zatanna is cast in the DCU, I can sell my 8.5.
Okay. Yeah. So you got to pay attention to the news or the movie news also.
And you have to be there early. So I did. So Streetside Anthony, he often invites people to sell with him. So he was having a big thing. There were like me and like 3 other folks selling with him one day. I think it was in July, or maybe it was in May. Regardless. So I sold a bunch of books, did well. And then I went around and picked out books, and I spent the books that I bought, I spent $290. One of them was a Web of Spider-Man 36 that I bought for $12. Knowing rumors, I sent that one in right away. Cleaned and pressed it, came back a 9.8. As soon as they announced Marvin Jones III as Tombstone, sold it on eBay for $340.
Nice.
But I listed it the day the news came out. And then when I woke up the next morning, it had sold. So basically now every other book is free from that day.
Okay.
So, but I don't always, I was going through a spec box. I'm like, oh man, I should have, I should have sold these books months ago.
So how many Omega Men 3s do you have lying around?
I have a few. I have sold some of those. I did find one that I sold right away. It was probably like an 859. That I got for 50 cents at the flea market. So,
okay.
That was like, because it's been so hot. It hasn't really been a spec book, because it was so hot for so long that's a book I sell. So, I kind of have been putting every time, like, I have a Supergirl book, an old adventure from one of her runs, put that to the side, and I'll probably do a Supergirl centric show when the movie's about to come out.
Oh, okay. Yeah, hopefully the trailer didn't downplay any of the importance of Supergirl movie in the hot.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll still do well. It probably won't do as well as Superman, and that's, who knows what's going on with Warner Brothers. But that should still be, hopefully a fun movie. And also I picked up a whole bunch of Silver Age Green Lantern books a few weeks ago.
Okay.
Some earlier stuff, like, some first appearances of villains and whatnot. And then I realized I don't have any of these, so I'm just going to save them. Because I was saying, oh, let me get them available for, when the TV show comes out. I do have some books set aside for when the Lanterns TV show comes out, but,
that's a good.
I have been speculating on Jon Stewart for a few years, so.
Well, I think isn't he in your thumbnail or
Yeah.
in your logo?
Yeah.
So do you remember what your biggest flip or most memorable sale was?
When I got the Spider-Man 5 for $5, that I sold it right away for 500. And I gave a buddy a discount because it was probably like an $800 book, in the condition it was in. One of the more interesting ones, I went to flea market, and I see on the side of a table a short box of comic books, a whole bunch of other junk. I don't even know, tools and license plates or whatever the heck, tchotchkes. And I start flipping through. I go, how much are the comics? It goes $1 a piece. It's 90s garbage, nothing of value. The last two books were Speed Racer 1,
Okay.
from Now Comics, which I think I sold for 25. And then the last book in there was an Archie's Girls Betty and Veronica book from 1961. Fine condition. Where like they're literally on a pedestal and Archie's looking up at them. I forget the issue number. My girls. So I didn't. One of the things I try to do on whatnot is the more niche books, like Archie's and the funny animal stuff and G.I. Joe and Star Wars. I kind of put those aside to try. I'll do a theme night. I'll do romance books, war books,
Right.
westerns. So I did an Archie, and that was the book on the wall that one of the books I was showcasing as one of the big books of the night. So I started for $3. Figure it's about a $40 book. Went for $147. That was like two guys really wanted that book. And it was, and the funny thing is sometimes you'll find stuff at the flea market and it'd be like, it's hard to find book, but it just so happened that, whoever's house that this guy cleaned out, that was there. So, and that was, a reasonably quick flip. I probably have better profit margins on some books that I've had graded. Like I said, the Tombstone book that was like a $300 profit, after fees and everything, close to it. So, but that involves trying to get the 9.8, and that took a few months to process the whole thing.
Sometimes books on Whatnot can just go for amounts that you have no idea why they went for what they did.
Yeah, I had I had a collection that had 2 incomplete runs of V, not V for Vendetta, the V based on the 80s sci-fi show.
Okay.
And so I said it wasn't a full set. I said, okay, let me list them each individually because they go for about $5, maybe $10 each. First one, I had most of them available, went through the sale, didn't sell any of them. Next week, I had fewer available. They were going for like $15 a piece. There were 2 guys that were bidding on it, that book, like they hated each other. It's like one guy had slept with the other guy's wife or something. I don't know what was going on, but they were bidding each other up, and I'm just sitting there going, wow, that's crazy. And sometimes that happens. You just have no idea. I sold like Batman Annual 22 last week for $16. I don't know why it went that high.
Oh, Randy's wanting some Force knowledge from you, Jim.
Oh, yeah. I didn't put on my Star Wars shirt. I put on my Red Tornado shirt.
Yeah, my most surprising sale on Whatnot, I had a Sensational Spider-Man issue number 0 with the lenticular cover.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything specifically hot about that book?
I think the fact that actually I have here, because that was in my my most recent CGC population report video.
Okay.
Ben Reilly becomes Spider-Man in that book.
Okay. It sold for $46.
Yeah, that shouldn't.
And I bought it in a whole collection of Spider-Man books. So I literally paid for that book like less than $1 or maybe $1 for it. But it sold for 40. I'm just sitting there going, what in the hell is going on? Like my Spider-Man knowledge is very low in that sense. So it's like, I was very surprised.
Yeah, that was one of the higher books on the population report for 1996.
Oh, Randy wanted to know how you find collections to buy. He's just out every weekend, Randy.
Yeah, I also have a relationship with a local antique store. It's kind of a funny story. Last Sunday, this guy, the antique store, and I bought collections from him before, and he's got a haggle. The problem is you're dealing with the middleman, so he has an idea of what he has, but he doesn't know everything. So he sends me pictures of a collection he just gotten in. It has like a Hulk 6 and Lois Lane 70, the first Silver Age Catwoman, some early Journey into Mystery, early Thor stuff. So he said he wanted this much for everything, right? And I just couldn't, get there that day. I had other stuff going on, whatever. So he's like, first come, first serve. Literally that night, I'm putting books into my phone on CLZ, and the Whatnot thing pops up. Oh, Silver Age collection. I'm like, okay, let me take a look at it. I'm like, those are all books from the pictures that I just saw. This other guy had gotten it from him. He was the first one to get there, and he was putting it within the day. He was selling on Whatnot. I don't work that fast. But I asked him, did you get this from? Yeah. And he goes, yeah. Yeah, I guess, well, you were there quicker than me. So I've seen that, he showed me a collection. I went in, didn't make a deal. And then, I'm at a show a couple weeks later, and Mike Carbonara, and looking at those books look familiar, and there was a specific book, the Archie 50, the one where Betty's lounging on the couch with the white sweater on, the one, it's from 1952 or something. It's an expensive book, and it was the copy he had was really nice.
Okay.
And I said to Carbo, you got the Archie 50? He goes, yeah, I'm going to send it in. And then I was selling at a show, and the guy, I was telling a couple other people about the story, and the guy goes, oh, I'm pressing that for Carbo. And he submitted it. I was at Terrificon. I saw Carbo handing the book in a 7.0 to Landry Pop Auctions. It went for about $3,500. And I know the guy that bought it. He cracked it and resubmitted and got a 7.5. And then I saw it at New York in the 7.5 slab.
Okay.
So I just keep seeing that book over and over again.
on Whatnot, how long does it usually take you to set up your shows? Or have you sped up your process or
Yeah, it's I would say a couple hours
okay.
because because the pictures and uploading the pictures and everything, that's time consuming. Because what I do is I have it in the CLZ app. Um, I will then put that into a Google Sheet. I have the Google Sheet, kind of the script set up to automatically,
Transpose it
help me
to
that I can copy and paste it here and it'll create the listing. So then all the books will appear and then I just have to insert the pictures. So I can put it in. It has all the information as the price I want to start it at auction for. If I'm pricing the books, it takes longer. So this particular collection, the lower grade DC, I'm just starting everything at $3. And since it's kind of a theme show and I have all DC silver, and it's lower grade, if it goes for 3, I'm fine. If it goes for more than that, better than fine. Just kind of, move it out the door. I'm keeping a handful of books. I'm trying to figure out what I'm keeping. I think I'm keeping some of the Rip Hunters and I got to check my Sea Devils and my Green Lanterns and what have you, some Doom Patrols, but most of the stuff I'm moving on. At any rate, yeah. And then I want to have the books. I like to have a particular order that I run books in. And if people ask for something, I can pull it. But basically, the first 30 books, let's say, or so, as the show is just starting and it's slow, I like to have books that are, not high value, lower value, like later X-Men or Amazing Spider-Mans that are
right.
like $5 books or something. And if, people buy it, fine. If they don't, fine. And then kind of build up. And then I put the bigger books on the wall so that people stop in the room and they go, oh, you have Amazing Spider-Man 298. What are you asking on that? I'm like, okay, this one, I'm starting at $3 or I'm starting this at 100 and that sort of thing. Because usually it takes, 20 minutes, half an hour for people to find the show if they haven't, bookmarked it and made it a point to get to it. And then like kind of the books that are kind of run fillers, I'll put towards the end. And I also like to vary it. So it's not like I'm not, if I have a run of, let's say, X-Men, let's say I had X-Men, 100 to 200.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't just do like X-Men every single book because the people that aren't interested in buying X-Men are gonna leave. So it'll be X-Men and it'll be something else and then come back to X-Men. So it's like
Right.
I try to do like every third book. So with the DC Bronze Age stuff, last week I organized. I think it worked out okay in reverse chronological order. So the stuff from like 1970, which is kind of where the collection ended, went first, and then we worked our way back. And like I said, since I have the information there, I got a lot of pre-bids. I had a show recently, I had like 200 pre-bids within 20 minutes of the show starting.
Oh, okay.
So
looks like Randy's volunteered to help make thumbnails for you if you want.
Well, my older child had made that one like 4 years ago when they were 11. So thumbnails. I'm thinking, yeah. I've started to work. It's just like I'm doing these CGC population report videos, and they're getting less interesting because I'm in the late 90s. Nothing is being submitted to CGC from the late 90s. It's like the number one book from 1996 has fewer copies than the number one book from 1959.
Okay.
But yeah, that's just a lot of prep work. When I come home from a show with a stack of books and I'm just like, I got this, I got this, I got this, I got this, it's easier. Or I could just, sometimes when I just like interesting. And one of my most successful videos, and like it got like over 100 watches in the last 2 days. It's from like 3 years ago, is Keys of Gold Key Comics.
Okay.
And I compared Gold Key Comics to a similar book that came out around the same time from Marvel or DC. And like you're comparing like Star Trek 1 to the first Dead Man. And I said, I think it was Star Trek or Scooby-Doo. I'm like, my kid wants to change it. They feel inferior work on their part. With Star Trek or Scooby-Doo, I'm like, everybody knows what Star Trek is or knows what Scooby-Doo is. And unless you're a comic reader, you have no idea who Dead Man is.
Right.
But there are more Dead Man books out there, and it's still, the price, I think compared to Star Trek, the price is about the same. It's like, but just like the Gold Key, you have so many popular intellectual properties that are big, that are key issues. And I've been picking up a few of them. I just picked up Space Ghost recently. I kicking myself. There was a Scooby-Doo on eBay, a raw one that I'm like, I didn't pull the trigger on, but it looked like it, with a press, it would have been worth quite a bit more than what they were selling it for raw.
Is it possible with CLZ to add a photo when you inventory the book?
I know that if it's something that they don't have in their system, if it's a weird variant or some crazy,
I'm just meaning like for your
I don't
own
know.
collection, because then, or here's my thought, and you can tell me, I mean, you know a good bit about it, so you might be able to tell me if it works or not. But if you say, when you're cataloging the collection and you snap photos of the covers and you had them in there, when you go to download your CSV file into your Google Sheet, could it then take the image?
The problem is, I know you can have the images. You have to have the image stored someplace.
Okay.
Right? Like you have to have like
has to have a web address.
Yeah, that you would store the images at. That's, probably is time consuming, and you're adding another layer. And rather than I just go through and I upload one by one by one by one.
Okay.
Sometimes I'm uploading them as the show is starting.
Yeah, I want to do more shows, but it's the whole like setting up for the show. Like we've done the random shows, but then it's like, well, how random shows are good, but then like how do you pick the randomness to make it enjoyable for people to watch?
When I go into Whatnot, it's kind of like, well, what's coming up next? Especially somebody like, they usually sell like, whatever they cleared out of a storage unit, and they don't really know comics, and you're like, what could be next? But you have to be really patient with those.
Oh yeah.
But the element of surprise is kind of exciting. For me, it's like I think I do better, and I think it depends on who the buyer is. I think the folks coming to my shows, they appreciate that, they know exactly what they're getting. They're like, okay, I'm trying to finish my Punisher War Journal run, and they're like, okay, there's 7 issues I can add to that. So that works out pretty well.
So what do you see as the biggest challenge that comic book resellers face right now?
Just like moving inventory. The problem is, like, if you pick up collections, most of this, like, think about it. You have, let's say, Alf 48, right? That controversial cover with Alf and the seal, right?
Thank you, Randy.
Yep. I'll be tuning in.
He just went over 1,000 subscribers on his channel.
Yeah, he has a very nice presence and an energy to him. It's fun to watch.
Handsome and humble host, as he says in most of his videos.
So Alf 48, right? That's a key. People want that book. There's as many copies of Alf 47 and Alf 49 and every other issue of Alf out there that nobody wants, right? So if you get a collection, like, and you have like a box that has every issue of Alf in it, okay, one maybe pull out 48. What do you do with everything else? Like, where does that end up? So, I think for me is just trying to, like, space is an issue. You just got to get this stuff out, and what do I want to keep? And that, the market is not great. It is a buyer's market right now. And that uncertainty as to what's going to happen. I think, we had that comic boom, and we're still correcting from that. But I think at a certain point, the right kind of stuff will rebound well. I think the danger is the more modern books, like you talk about the variants and all that, the foil covers, et cetera, et cetera. What is going to be the market for that long term, right? So there are going to be, at least for a while, collectors that want the 1980s Transformers, right? There are folks that are going to want every issue. They grew up with it. They start collecting it. They watch the show. They have the toys, et cetera, et cetera. Over time, who's going to want every single variant of the Monster and the Wolf from Mark Spears that came out in the mystery packs? I don't know.
How many variants was that?
I don't know, like 56 or something. It was, a crazy number. And that's like across the board. So and the thing is, to get like the 1 in 25 variants, the stores have to order 25 issues. So if you have like, Adam Hughes does a cover with, um, whoever, Firestar or Snowbird or something, the store has to order 25 copies of the A cover of a book that isn't a big seller. So, I think that's the danger. That's what we saw in the 90s. When I go through looking at collections or looking at back issues, and it's like Valiant, it's like, I know there are some keys, but it's like, I don't have the patience to go through Valiant stuff. There's so many copies of certain books out there, that, where is the end collector, right? You take a Golden Age book, let's say a Golden Age Batman book, any Golden Age Batman book, right? If there are 500 copies in existence, 1,000 copies in existence, there are going to be enough collectors that want that book. Right. But you get to a Batman, 487 or something from the 80s, and there are 20,000 copies or more of that book around. You have so many thousand collectors that want that particular issue. So I think that's the thing is, as we get more and everything, so many books as you go from 1980 forward were preserved well, that there are plenty of them available.
So where do you see the market going in the next few years?
Well, I think there's a lot of uncertainty in terms of, overall economics, because you have like two different comic markets. You have the people that can afford $9.12 million for a Superman #1, right? They're not affected by the, the price of groceries or gasoline. They have a lot of disposable income. Whereas the folks that are, buying $10 or $20 books, trying to get keys, trying to fill in runs, or saving up I want this book, it's $500. Trying to save up to buy that particular book. There are it's more difficult for those collectors to get into it right now. So I think, there's still collectors that can do that have disposable income, but when, you reduce the number of folks that do have that disposable income, it'll have to be when, earnings and costs turn the corner a little bit.
So what advice would you give someone that's just starting out with flipping comic books or thinking about reselling comic books? And would you ever think about opening up your own comic book store?
No. No. My friend who owns an LCS, and literally, for him, a lot of the revenue, he doesn't deal frequently in, reselling vintage books. He has his back issue bins. He sells his stuff. He actually had a ridiculous collection of early DC, mostly Green Lantern, that came in for consignment, where he got like books graded and came back as like single highest graded. Like there was one Green Lantern came back a 9.8. It's the only 9.8. Third appearance of Hal Jordan came back as a 9.4. It's the only 9.4, and there's no 9.2.
Oh, wow.
So, but most of his business is his regular customers who have a pull list every week, and he's, been in business for decades, but he's looking to retire soon. And he says, "Do you want to buy the store?" I'm like, "No, I do not want that kind of responsibility. If I miss a Whatnot show, it doesn't matter. If I'm away on vacation, whatever. If, when he's away on vacation, he has to make sure he has somebody that coming in and, getting the new books out, and that he doesn't miss ordering, what people want from the FOC. I don't want that day to day. Like, if I had to, I could just say, okay, I'm just, if I had to get rid of everything, I could just do one of those random shows and whatnot and just be like, okay, what's up next? And just, like what is it? There was a few weeks ago, I sold 300 comic books on one Whatnot show. Last week was 150. That's a pain in the neck to pack, but you know, that's kind of the idea is like, you know, I don't need to hold on to this extra inventory certainly forever. So,
How many different shipping boxes or types of shipping boxes do you have?
um, well, for Whatnot, what's nice is when you buy 6 books, you go to priority, right? So I will use Gemini mailers, or there's Diamond, I think it was that he got it through. It's a Gemini-esque mailer. It's a little thicker. Um, I found it doesn't fold as easily, but still does the job. But if somebody orders like a dozen books, I can uh, you know, put them all in Gemini mailer, put them in a priority box with a little bit of paper around it, and it's double protected. And it's paid for. They pay for priority, so that's side loading box works pretty well.
Right.
The thing is, when people get like 40 books,
Yeah.
usually when I go to the LCS weekly and get my new comics, I will grab one of those boxes they get from the distributor just to put my comics in.
Okay.
So, you know, and then if they get too many or they have slabs included, I have like old CGC boxes lying around.
What are your thoughts on giveaways on Whatnot?
It's kind of like a necessity to attract people. The biggest problem I ran into was a few months ago. I had never had a problem with the buyer appreciation giveaway. Right? I'd say this is the buyer appreciation giveaway, and you know, run it. You know, if not at the end of the show, you know, basically a couple hours or so into the show, and it was fine. And then 2 straight weeks, the same guy who's a form filler, right, won the book, and then everybody else was pissed off because if they made it a condition that there was no way to get into the giveaway, the buyer appreciation giveaway, other than buying something, it's technically a raffle. And then they would have to file in every state has their own laws on raffles because, you know, you have to, you know, purchase required, right?
Right.
So they have the workaround that it's
the whole no purchase necessary.
Yeah, the form filler. So the same guy won 2 weeks in a row, and I was doing slabs. I mean, cheaper slabs, you know, slabs that I got in collections that were worth, you know, $50, let's say, that weren't selling, you know, whatever. But then he won 2 weeks in a row, and everybody was pissed off. So what I said is, okay, here's a Turok 1. That's the giveaway, and if my discretion, I can add to it. So if it's somebody that bought stuff, then I'll say, okay, you know, I'll give a choice of slabs. Which slab do you want? And they'll pick one of the slabs. And I'm right now, I'm also like taking some new books. What I'll do is I'll pick up some books at the LCS, and I like to pick up like the facsimiles or interesting number ones that you know, I think are good reads that not everybody may have gotten. And I'll use those as the giveaways at the beginning. And then I just have like kind of random stuff as giveaways, you know, in the middle of the show, if I get rated or what have you. But I have some of the things, like I just have that Adam Hughes cover for Black Cat 3 that he just did, which is worth about cover price, but it's Adam Hughes and it's Black Cat. I just threw a couple of those in the press. You know, it's going to cost me about $20 or so to get it graded. I can use those as giveaways. You know, it's like a $25 cost to me.
This is, I guess I won your giveaway a week ago.
Okay.
So CLZ can't find this.
Oh no. I have actually gotten that. I got that for free. I think I saw it on cover price. I don't know, it was like a $10-15 book.
I guess it's glow in the dark.
Yeah.
Glow in the dark.
One of the stores I went to on the 3 Men in a Basement comic crawl, Second Alarm Comics, they were giving like mystery packs to everybody that came along. So they gave a couple books. So I'm like, well, just pay that forward. Use that as a giveaway.
So what advice would you give somebody that's wanting to start off with selling on Whatnot or anything like that?
You got to be patient. You got to be patient. And don't put up big stuff right away. Don't expect like you have a book that is worth $100 that you're going to start it for $1 and you're going to get $100. If like you have 10 people in the room, you'll be lucky to get 50. So you might want to, if it's worth $100, say, okay, what do I have into it? Can I put it up for 80 or 90? And then, give people a deal, get them to come back. I think I ship quickly. I ship securely. Like, if you buy at least 6 books, you get double boxed. I've had one issue with shipping where the box got crunched, and actually Whatnot just sent the money back to the buyer, and they kept the books, and I kept the money I got, and that was the end of it. It was, all insured and what have you. If somebody spends more than $200 on whatever they bought in total, I'll add in insurance, extra insurance, and signature confirmation.
Okay. I haven't got to that issue yet.
Yeah. And so I did sell a Daredevil 1 once on Whatnot. So, sometimes especially slabs, I'll sell bigger books, but patience and I treat it a lot of times closer to a claim sale than an auction. So if I put a book up for $20 and it doesn't sell for $20, that's fine. I'll put it aside and maybe it'll sell for $20 at a future show, and I'll work with people, they make offers, I can consider it and, try to move stuff along. But, that's, I have a lot of books. Like I have, I think 150 some odd books that didn't sell 6 months ago that I'll be back, for sale tomorrow night with some other books, and, mix new in with old. And usually usually the book, at least in terms of like CLZ cover price kind of thing, it has to be worth at least $5, if not $10 for it to make sense for me to run it on Whatnot. I will certain books, Uncanny X-Men, Amazing Spider-Man, Punisher, Wolverine, those kinds of runs, Batman. I'll do run fillers for those titles, and maybe some other stuff. I do try to find Uncanny X-Men newsstands, especially for later stuff. And what'll happen is it won't sell, and then somebody will be like, oh, it's whatever the title is. I need 10 of these issues. Click, and they'll buy all of them. So, but it does require patience. And especially the next day when you have to pack everything if you've had a successful show.
Right.
And then drag everything to the post office.
And for those of y'all that didn't know, Jim does a Whatnot show pretty much every Monday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yep.
So, and it's very consistent. So you can pretty much set your watch by it. So, and he's on like season 3 or year 3 of Whatnot shows.
Yeah. So more than 3.5 years now at this point. So
you should all go check that out. He has a lot of great stuff. I know one time he had an Iron Man #1 go for a pretty fair price on there. It didn't sell the first time through, and I was looking at trying to get it for the second time, and then it went higher than what I was going to pay. But
yeah, that's the thing is like, especially, when you have 30 people in the room, do you have the person that's going to buy that book? So yeah, it's worked out fairly well for me.
Well, thank you for being here, Jim. Do you have anything that you want to plug? YouTube, Whatnot, eBay wise? Go for it.
I'm coming out with YouTube videos, probably about 3 a week. I've been working my way through the CGC population report by year. I'm up to 1996, came out today. And that is a very dark time for comic books. And not a lot to get excited about. But it's fun to go through. And if I usually like, I'll learn about books. And then I went to a Street Side Anthony's, and it was like, after I did like 1986, like 10 weeks ago. And I just pulled like some independent books that were on that list as the top book from these small independent publishers. I'm like, well, I never read this book. Let me just grab it for $5, 10, probably about $5. Then I do have a plan for what I'm going to do after that, which is going to be, I'm going to go DC by month. I'm going to start back in the 30s.
Okay.
And I'll probably do a year at a time until we get to Action Comics 1. and just go through the books that came out, that with the key significance and like how storylines changed and artists, and just kind of have some fun with that. That's kind of my plan. And the other stuff is, all videos. I did a video that's coming out tomorrow, like comparing the values of those 9/8s. They're all worth about the same in a 9/8, but they're worth different values raw, because there are, how many 9/8s are there? Looking at the data of the CGC census and eBay sold and what's available on eBay, that kind of thing. So let's see if I have. I was just curious if I sold anything on eBay, which I did not.
Okay. It's always fun to hear that ka-ching sound.
Yes, the cash register.
All right. Well, Jim, thank you for being here. I have coming up on, I'm not doing a show next Sunday night because it is my birthday. And,
happy birthday.
Thank you. I will be.
So you get a lot of combination gifts, I guess.
No, my parents kept it separate because my brother's birthday is also this week. So they have, both of us are like 4 days apart.
Okay.
I'll be turning 50 next Sunday. So I'm going to take the day off from YouTube. But on the following Sunday, between Christmas and New Year's, I am going to be interviewing Izzyverse NYC. You might know. Do you ever run into Izzy Sachar?
I have, but not a lot.
Okay. But Izzy will be my guest on the Comic Channel Origins show on December 28th. So please join us for that one. Should be a lot of fun. He does a lot of live streaming stuff and has really built up his channel. So that's what I got coming up. And I think I'll be talking to Philobox Comics the first part of the new year. He'll be my next guest after that. But that's all that I have coming up. I'm going to try to get some pre-recorded videos out. Got a giveaway to record for stuff that I won from Council of Comics. Won their October giveaway, so I'm a little behind, but I'll get the video done and out there. So thank you all for watching. My name's Bryant. This is Jim, and we'll see you in the next one. All right. Good night, everybody.
Thanks.